"No, I swear I didn't do it." The desperate cry of elderly Donna Rosa tore through the oppressive silence of the courtroom. Accused of the brutal murder of her young nephew, Loreto, she watched her world crumble as Judge Helena weighed the overwhelming evidence. No one believed in her innocence, except perhaps Parrot, Loreto's parrot, whom Donna Rosa, in her desperation, had brought with her. Suddenly, in the midst of a witness's testimony, the parrot squawked, repeating fragments of phrases that didn't belong to Loreto, but to an unknown voice, laden with fury and greed, uttering words about the secret of the dark room. And what it revealed would forever change everyone's destiny. The courtroom, previously in heavy silence, now buzzed with murmurs and astonished glances. Judge Helena, with a serious demeanor and keen eyes, raised a hand, calling for order. Her eyes, however, betrayed surprise and curiosity. Never in her career had she seen anything like it. A parrot, in the middle of a murder trial, repeating phrases that sounded like something out of a mystery script. Donna Rosa felt a faint thread of hope ignite within her, her tear-filled eyes fixed on Parrot, the small, green-feathered creature, her last living connection to Loreto. The elderly woman extended a trembling hand towards the cage, and Parrot, as if sensing the plea, tilted its head, letting out more sounds. Dark, room, secret, gold, the bird repeated clearly, imitating an urgent, greedy male voice, not Loreto's. The corpulent prosecutor rose indignantly. "Your Honor, we cannot allow this circus. An animal is not a witness. It is disrespectful to the court and to the victim." His voice echoed, trying to drown out the renewed murmuring. Judge Helena frowned. Something in Parrot's words prevented her from ignoring them. She observed Donna Rosa clutching the cage, her lips trembling. The woman's fragility, the pain on her face, touched the judge. Helena had always sought pure truth beyond the law, however improbable it might seem. "Order in the court!" Helena's voice rang out firmly. "Mr. Prosecutor, I understand. However, this court will seek the truth by all means. What this parrot has uttered is, at the very least, peculiar. Donna Rosa, have you heard these phrases before?" Donna Rosa looked up, surprised. "No, Your Honor. Loreto was good, calm. Parrot used to repeat his jokes, his songs, but dark room was gold, never. It wasn't Loreto's voice, but another man's." The words came out with difficulty, choked, but with sincere conviction. Judge Helena pondered. The situation was unusual. Donna Rosa's young lawyer, believing in her innocence, seized the opportunity. "Your Honor, perhaps we should investigate the origin of these phrases. They might be the key to Loreto." The prosecutor scoffed, irritated, but Helena was already a step ahead. She felt an intuition, a discomfort. Donna Rosa's life was in her hands, and injustice tormented her. "Mr. Lawyer, your suggestion is pertinent. Although the court does not accept a parrot as a witness, its information is a clue, the only one pointing in another direction, different from the circumstantial evidence." Helena looked at Parrot, calm in its cage, observing. A shiver. What if that creature held a secret? What if Loreto's silenced voice was trying to manifest itself? The idea was absurd, but Helena trusted her intuition and the law. Something told her there was more to Loreto's story. She made a decision that would change the trial. In light of the new information and seeking to exhaust all possibilities for truth and justice, this court temporarily suspends Donna Rosa's trial. We will reopen the investigation to ascertain the origin of Parrot's phrases. I request the police to investigate any dark room or gold in the life of Loreto and his acquaintances. Justice, at times, manifests itself in ways that defy our understanding. It is our duty to listen to it, however peculiar the messenger. Donna Rosa let out a sigh from her soul. A tear of relief and hope streamed down her face. Parrot, as if understanding, let out a soft chirp. Judge Helena felt the weight of responsibility, but also the growing certainty that she was on the right path. Donna Rosa's fate, And the truth about Loreto now rested on the wings of a parrot and the determination of a judge. Judge Helena's decision echoed through the courthouse corridors, generating a wave of shock and surprise. For Donna Rosa, however, it was like a balm for her wounded soul. Her eyes, previously clouded by pain, now shone with faint hope. She hugged Parrot's cage tightly, tears of relief wetting the parrot's feathers, which rubbed its head against her hand. A silent gesture of comfort, a promise that she was not alone. Helena felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but also a growing conviction. She left the courtroom under curious glances and disapproval. The irritated prosecutor tried to approach her, but the judge, with a firm wave, indicated it was not the time. Her mind was already fully engaged, mapping out the next steps. Truth, she knew, was rarely simple or convenient, requiring an open and courageous mind. The next day, news of the trial's suspension and the unusual reason, a parrot, spread throughout the city. The press, eager for sensationalism, turned the case into a headline. Some ridiculed the judge, calling her eccentric and naive for her decision. Others praised her courage in seeking justice through unconventional paths, inspiring many. Donna Rosa, in her humble home, tried to ignore the whispers, clinging to the faith Helena had given her. Parrot, oblivious to the commotion, repeated "darkroom, gold," keeping the flame of hope alive. Judge Helena summoned the chief of police for a private meeting. Detective Silva, an experienced but skeptical man, listened to Helena's request with an expression of disbelief. "Your Honor, with all due respect, investigate a parrot's utterances. It's a dangerous precedent. Our resources are limited, and we cannot waste them." Helena stared at him firmly. "Detective Silva, the circumstantial evidence against Donna Rosa is strong, but not irrefutable. What if there's truth in Parrot's words? What if Loreto, before he died, tried to tell us something through his animal? Justice cannot ignore any clue, however improbable it may seem. I want you to thoroughly investigate Loreto's life. Look for any mention of a dark room, gold, any partner or person who might have silenced him. Leave no stone unturned." The passion in the judge's voice was contagious. Detective Silva, though reluctant, saw the unwavering determination in Helena's eyes. He knew she was a woman of principles, who didn't act on impulse. "All right, Your Honor, we'll start investigating, but I don't promise miracles, just thorough work." As the police began the difficult task of unraveling Loreto's mysteries, Helena reviewed the case files, searching for any detail that might have gone unnoticed. Loreto's life, a young man seemingly without enemies, appeared to be an open book, but Parrot's words suggested a hidden, dark and dangerous chapter. The judge felt she was about to delve into a labyrinth of secrets, where truth was a precious coin hidden in the shadows. With each page turned, the image of Donna Rosa, fragile and wronged, propelled Helena forward, trusting that the voice of justice manifests through the most improbable messengers. Helena delved into the documents, each word read with heightened attention, as if the letters could reveal a hidden secret. The piles of papers on her desk seemed to grow, but the judge felt driven by an inner force. The image of Donna Rosa, with tear-filled eyes and trembling hands holding Parrot's cage, was a constant reminder of her mission. It wasn't just a legal case. It was an elderly woman's life and the search for a truth that defied logic. Injustice would not prevail. Meanwhile, Detective Silva, despite his skepticism, mobilized his team. The task was thankless, investigating a dark room and gold based on fragments of a parrot's words. His men, accustomed to concrete evidence, exchanged strange glances. Silva, however, was professional. "A clue is a clue," he repeated. They started with Loreto's financial records, looking for unusual transactions or suspicious contacts. Donna Rosa's nephew's life seemed irreproachable, but experience taught Silva that appearances can be deceiving. In her simple home, Donna Rosa lived in a limbo of hope and anguish. News about the detective Parrot reached her through neighbors, who looked at her with curiosity and pity. Parrot was her only companion, her link to the past and a bridge to an uncertain future. The bird continued to repeat the phrases, dark room, secret, gold. The male voice echoed in her thoughts. She spent hours observing Parrot, trying to decipher the mystery as if the bird could reveal more. A thread of hope grew stronger. Days turned into weeks. Silva's investigation progressed slowly, hitting dead ends. Loreto had no obvious dark room, nor large sums of gold in his accounts. Friends and colleagues described him as an honest, dedicated man without vices or ambitions. "He was a simple man, Your Honor," Silva reported to Helena in one of their weekly meetings, his voice tinged with frustration. "No solid leads. It seems we're chasing ghosts." Helena listened attentively, her expression serious. "Detective, simplicity can be a mask. Loreto worked in finance, correct? Perhaps the gold isn't literal, but rather something related to money, to a scheme." She gestured, indicating the complexity of the financial world. The dark room could be metaphorical, a place of secrets or a hidden part of Loreto's life. Her eyes met Silva's, conveying unwavering confidence. "Don't give up. The truth is out there, waiting to be discovered." Silva nodded, though the task seemed increasingly arduous. The pressure of public opinion and the incredulity of his superiors weighed on him. But Helena's determination was contagious. He promised to intensify the search, focusing on Loreto's partners and any financial project the young man might have been involved in. The judge, for her part, continued to study the details, looking for flaws. She knew that justice demanded patience and unwavering faith, even when darkness seemed to swallow all light. Donna Rosa in her home prayed, and Parrot in its cage murmured, keeping the small flame of hope alive. Donna Rosa in her home prayed, and Parrot in its cage murmured, keeping the small flame of hope alive. Days dragged on, each bringing a mix of relief from the trial suspension and the agony of uncertainty. She spent hours talking to Parrot, telling it about Loreto, about the injustice that suffocated her, as if the bird could understand and somehow hasten the arrival of truth. Parrot, in turn, continued its peculiar melody, dark room, secret, gold. The words, once strange and disconnected, were now the only melody of hope in the elderly woman's life, a persistent echo that wouldn't let her give up. In Judge Helena's chambers, the pile of documents about Loreto did not diminish. She felt the pressure from the media and colleagues who questioned her unusual decision, but her intuition was stronger than any criticism. The idea that Loreto was simple and without enemies didn't fit with the mystery of his death and Parrot's enigmatic words. There was something more, a veil to be lifted, and Helena was determined to find it. She reread the testimonies of Loreto's colleagues at the financial firm. Everyone described him as a competent and upright professional, a promising young man. But what if that very integrity had put him in mortal danger? Helena summoned Detective Silva again. He entered her office with a visibly tired expression, his shoulders slumped under the weight of an unfruitful investigation. "Your Honor, we've turned Loreto's life upside down. No hidden debts, no secret romances, no quarrels with neighbors. The dark room and gold seem like a bird's delusions, without any basis in reality." He gestured with his hands, openly expressing his growing frustration. Judge Helena, however, was not swayed by the apparent lack of progress. "Detective, Loreto's simplicity might be the key itself. He was a man of principles, wasn't he? What if he had discovered something he shouldn't have? Something at work in the complex financial world where gold has a very real and dangerous meaning. She leaned over the table, her eyes fixed on his, conveying unwavering confidence. Who were Loreto's partners? Did he have a close business partner? Someone who depended on him or who could be harmed by his unquestionable honesty? Silver thought, sifting through his memory and the reports. Loreto worked at a medium-sized company with a few partners. There was one, in particular, a man named Dr. Almeida, older and with an apparently impeccable reputation, who was his mentor and with whom Loreto shared an important project. Dr. Almeida, Your Honor, a pillar of the financial community respected by all, impeccable. Loreto admired him greatly and trusted him completely. Impeccable. Detective until proven otherwise, Helena retorted, her voice soft but firm, laden with deep meaning. I want you to investigate Dr. Almeida. Not just his public reputation, but his businesses, his investments, his contacts, and the project he shared with Loreto. Is there something there that could be a dark room? A secret Loreto might have discovered that cost him his life. Silver felt a new breath of hope. The idea that gold and the dark room could be metaphors for a complex financial scheme now seemed much more plausible than a physical hiding place. He nodded, determination returning to his eyes, a clear new direction in his mind. We'll focus on Dr. Almeida and the projects he shared with Loreto. Perhaps Loreto stumbled upon something too big for him, something that silenced him. Meanwhile, Donna Rosa, cradling Perla with affection, felt a shiver run down her spine. Loreto, in recent months, had mentioned a few times that he was working on a big project with Dr. Almeida, and that he was very excited but also a little worried about the complexity and risks involved. She never paid much attention to these details, thinking it was just her nephew's work routine. But now, Perola's words and the memory of Loreto returned with a new and unsettling clarity. Dark room, secret, gold. The parrot's voice seemed stronger, more urgent, almost a warning. Donna Rosa pressed Perola against her chest, a new and terrible possibility forming in her mind. The truth was revealing itself piece by piece, and she felt that the path would be painful, but absolutely necessary. Justice, she hoped with all her heart, would find its way through the deepest shadows. Donna Rosa pressed Perola against her chest, a new and terrible possibility forming in her mind, cold and frightening. The truth was revealing itself piece by piece, and she felt that the path would be painful, but absolutely necessary for Loreto's soul and for her own peace. Justice, she hoped with all her heart, would find its way through the deepest shadows. Memories of conversations with Loreto about the big project, with Dr. Almeida and his veiled concern, now took on a sinister outline. He had mentioned the complexity, the risks involved, and the elderly woman, in her innocence, had only thought of normal work challenges. But what if these risks were more than financial? What if Loreto had seen something he shouldn't have, something that made him a target? Donna Rosa's mind reeled, a whirlwind of fears and hopes, as silent tears streamed down her wrinkled face. Perola, in its cage, seemed to sense the agitation, letting out a sharper chirp, almost a lament. Dark room, secret, gold, it repeated, and Donna Rosa felt a chilling shiver run down her spine. In Judge Helena's chambers, determination was palpable, etched into every line of her serious face. She knew she was challenging the system and risking her reputation, but the image of Donna Rosa, so fragile and wronged, was her inexhaustible fuel. The judge reviewed Dr. Almeida's documents with an imaginary magnifying glass, searching for any flaw, any shadow in his seemingly untouchable reputation. Such a respected man, a mentor to Loreto. The idea that he could be involved in something illicit was deeply disturbing, but not impossible. The financial world, she knew from experience, was fertile ground for secrets and unrestrained ambitions. Perilous gold was certainly not literal, but a metaphor for illicit gains, for a fortune hidden beneath the facade of respectability and success. Detective Silva, for his part, was immersed in the investigation of Dr. Almeida, feeling the weight of responsibility. His men scoured bank records, business partnerships, and the company's project history with a meticulousness that bordered on obsession. The task was delicate, as Almeida had powerful connections, and the press was attentive to every step. The detective felt the pressure, but Helena's unwavering confidence was a beacon in the darkness. The project Loreto and Almeida shared, he instructed his team, needs to be the focus. Look for any irregularities, any deviations. Where gold is at stake, there's always a dark room to hide it. The team, previously skeptical, began to see the disturbing logic in the judge's approach, and skepticism gave way to professional curiosity. The first clues began to emerge, small, almost imperceptible, but enough to trigger a red alert. A series of complex transactions involving shell companies and tax havens linked to one of the projects Almeida and Loreto were developing. Nothing illegal at first glance, but the complexity and lack of transparency were unusual for a man with Almeida's reputation. Silva felt a chill down his spine, a sense that they were on the right track, but that what they would find would be grim. He called an urgent meeting with Helena, preliminary documents in hand, his expression grave. Meanwhile, Donna Rosa, in her home, tried to calm her racing heart. She picked up an old photo album, full of memories of Loreto. There was a photo of him next to Dr. Almeida, both smiling, at a company party. Loreto seemed so happy, so proud of his mentor. The elderly woman felt a tightness in her chest, a sharp pain. How could someone so good, so pure, have been betrayed by someone he fully trusted? The hope for justice mingled with the pain of a potentially bitter and devastating revelation. Parrot, in its cage, let out a dark room, gold, as a constant reminder that the truth, however harsh, was very close. Judge Helena, Detective Silva, and Donna Rosa were, each in their own way, about to unravel a secret that would shake everyone and bring to light the hidden face of greed. Judge Helena, Detective Silva, and Donna Rosa were each in their own way, about to unravel a secret that would shake everyone and bring to light the hidden face of greed. That afternoon, Helena's office was a stage of silent tension. Detective Silva, with the preliminary documents in hand, his expression grave, sat before her. The air was thick with anticipation. "Your Honor," Silva began, his voice lower than usual, "my team and I delved into Dr. Almeida's business, and what we found is disturbing. Those complex transactions, the shell companies, the tax havens, they are not mere irregularities. They are part of an elaborate scheme." He extended a folder, opening it to reveal charts and bank statements. The project Loreto and Almeida shared, the big project Loreto mentioned to Donna Rosa, was a front for a colossal financial fraud. The gold, Your Honor, was not literal, but millions diverted from unsuspecting investors. Helena felt a chill down her spine. Her intuition, however absurd it seemed at first, was being confirmed. The image of Dr. Almeida, the respected man, Loreto's mentor, crumbled before her eyes. "And the dark room, Detective?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper but firm. Silva pointed to a document. "We found a hidden data server, camouflaged as a company backup file. Inside it, documents detailing every step of the fraud, the secret accounts, the names of the beneficiaries. It's a true digital darkroom, where Almeida kept all his secrets." He paused, his eyes fixed on Helena's. "And the most shocking thing, Your Honor, is that there are records of Loreto. He discovered the scheme. There are emails and notes from him, dated in the last weeks of his life, where he expresses his indignation and threatens to expose the truth. A knot formed in Helena's throat. The turning point was there, undeniable, painful. Loreto was not a random victim. He had been silenced for his own integrity. Donna Rosa's pain, the woman's innocence, everything fit into the terrible web of greed. So Loreto was murdered to be silenced, Helena concluded, her voice choked, but with a new and fierce determination. He was a threat to Dr. Almeida's empire of lies. Silva nodded, his expression grim. Everything indicates it. Loreto was an honest man. He wouldn't allow this to continue. Helena closed the folder, her mind already mapping out the next steps. Detective, we need irrefutable evidence for the court. We need a warrant to access that server, to confront Dr. Almeida. His reputation will ensure that any accusation without a solid basis is swept under the rug. But now, we have the foundation. Meanwhile, in Donna Rosa's home, the elderly woman sat beside Perola's cage. She leafed through the photo album again, her eyes fixed on the image of Loreto and Almeida. Perola's words, "dark room," "secret," "gold," seemed to echo with a new and terrible clarity. Suddenly, Perola let out a loud chirp, different from its usual ones. "No, Almeida, no," the bird repeated, imitating a male voice that Donna Rosa recognized as Loreto's, laden with despair. A shiver ran down the elderly woman's spine. The truth, which she had sought so desperately, was revealing itself in a way that broke her heart into 1,000 pieces. Loreto tried to warn her, tried to warn everyone. The parrot, her little messenger, held not only the killer's phrases, but also the last cry of warning from her beloved nephew, hope mingled with the pain of an unimaginable betrayal. Donna Rosa felt her heart clench painfully in her chest. Perola's words, "No, Almeida, no!" echoed in her mind, Loreto's voice so clear, so full of despair. It was as if she was witnessing the last moments of her beloved nephew, a final cry of warning. Tears, which seemed to have dried, began to flow again, hot and abundant, wetting her trembling hands that still held the parrot. The pain of loss mingled with the bitterness of the cruelest betrayal. Loreto had trusted Almeida, saw him as a mentor, and now Perola revealed the abyss of disloyalty. Donna Rosa hugged the bird more tightly, seeking solace and a vital connection with Loreto. The small bird, oblivious to the depth of its revelation, nestled against her chest, an innocent messenger of a devastating truth. The hope for justice, once a faint thread, grew stronger, but at an immense emotional cost. While pain invaded Donna Rosa's soul, in Judge Helena's chambers, the judge and Detective Silva discussed the next steps with palpable seriousness. The revelation of the fraud scheme and the proof that Loreto had discovered everything, threatening to expose Almeida, transformed the case. It was no longer just a murder accusation. It was the unmasking of a web of lies and greed. Helena, with the folder of documents in hand, felt the weight of justice on her shoulders. "Detective, we need to act with absolute speed and discretion. Almeida is an influential man. Any misstep could compromise the investigation and give him time to cover his tracks," she instructed, her voice low but laden with authority. Silva nodded, frustration replaced by determination and a sense of urgency. "I have already requested a search warrant for the hidden server. We need to ensure that this evidence does not disappear. And we will begin surveillance on Almeida. He cannot suspect that we are so close, Your Honor." The task was monumental. Unmasking a pillar of the financial community would require irrefutable evidence and immense courage to face the social repercussions and fierce resistance. Helena knew that her decision to trust a parrot would be criticized, ridiculed by many, but Loreto's truth, shouted through Perilla, was a beacon that guided her. She thought of Donna Rosa, of her unwavering faith, and this propelled her. Justice could not be selective. It needed to reach everyone. Detective Silva felt the adrenaline of the hunt. The complexity of Almeida's scheme was impressive, but the idea that Loreto, an honest young man, had been silenced for his integrity, ignited a fire of indignation within him. He promised himself he would do everything to honor Loreto's memory and bring justice to Donna Rosa, whom he had doubted so much. In her simple home, Donna Rosa tried to process the avalanche of emotions. The image of Loreto, smiling in the photo next to Almeida, seemed a cruel irony. The pain was deep, but a small flame of hope burned more intensely. Perilla, the little guardian of truth, had fulfilled its mission. It would not only clear her name, but also reveal the true face of evil. The elderly woman stood up, walking to the window, watching the setting sun. Loreto's life, so brutally cut short, would not be in vain. His voice, through Perilla, would be heard, and justice, she believed, would prevail over darkness. The elderly woman stood up, walking to the window, watching the setting sun. Loreto's life, brutally cut short, would not be in vain. His voice, through Perilla, would be heard, and justice, she believed, would prevail over darkness. Donna Rosa's heart, once crushed by pain, now felt new strength. Perilla's revelation, however painful, brought clarity. Loreto was not just a victim. He was a hero who refused to collude with dishonesty, and that truth needed to be honored. She caressed Perilla, nestled on her shoulder, a vibrant reminder of her nephew's courage. In Judge Helena's chambers, the atmosphere was one of intense focus. The warrant for Almeida's server had already been issued, and Detective Silva's team was ready. Helena, with her glasses perched on her nose, read and reread the documents, searching for details for the case. She knew Almeida would not be an easy adversary. His influence and network of contacts were vast, and he would try to discredit the evidence. But the judge was prepared. The image of Donna Rosa, with eyes full of hope, was a shield against fear and doubt. Detective Silva coordinated the operation with military precision. His men, now convinced of the seriousness, moved with new purpose. Surveillance on Almeida had been intensified, every movement monitored. "We need to be faster and smarter than him," Silva instructed, his voice grave. "We cannot give him a chance to destroy the evidence or flee." The tension was palpable, but the determination greater. They knew they would unmask a powerful man, and the risk was immense. As Silva's team prepared, Donna Rosa, at home, organized Loreto's belongings. Each object, a shirt, a book, a watch, echoed her nephew's presence. She found a small diary, hidden under clothes in a drawer. With trembling hands, she opened it. The first pages spoke of dreams, plans, admiration for Almeida. But as she progressed, the tone changed. There were notes about irregularities, discrepancies, and Almeida's pressure for silence. The last entry, days before his death, read, "I can't anymore. I need to expose the truth, no matter the cost. Almeida won't like it." Loreto's words in the diary were a punch to Donna Rosa's gut. They confirmed what Perilla had revealed, intimately and painfully. Her nephew had fought for the truth until the end. The elderly woman hugged the diary to her chest, tears streaming down. The pain was excruciating, but the certainty that Loreto was upright, a true hero, brought bittersweet solace. She knew the diary was a crucial piece, a testament to Loreto's courage. That same night, Silva's team raided Almeida's office, armed with the warrant. The search for the hidden server was meticulous. Dr. Almeida, caught by surprise, tried to resist, claiming persecution. His expression of shock and fury did not fool Silva. After hours of searching, the server was found, camouflaged as indicated. Technicians began extracting the data, while Almeida watched, his face pale, his mask of respectability crumbling. Justice was one step away from unraveling the truth, and Loreto's silence would finally be broken. The night advanced in Dr. Almeida's office, lit only by computer screens and the cold light of flashlights. The technicians, with concentrated expressions, worked on extracting data from the hidden server. Every mouse click, every progress bar on the screen seemed like a heartbeat of justice, slow but relentless. Dr. Almeida, seated in a chair, handcuffed, watched the scene with a mixture of contained fury and growing despair. His mask of respectability had fallen, revealing a cornered man whose once haughty eyes now gleamed with palpable fear. Detective Silva supervised everything, his expression serious, but with a discreet flame of satisfaction in his eyes. Judge Helena's intuition, which he had doubted so much, was proving overwhelmingly correct. Hours passed. At dawn, with the first rays of sun peeking through the windows, the technicians held a treasure trove of information. Detailed spreadsheets, encrypted communications, records of millionaire transfers to accounts in tax havens. Perilous gold was, in fact, an illicit fortune, and the dark room was a complex network of frauds carefully orchestrated by Almeida. But what shocked everyone most were Loreto's files. There was a document titled My Conscience, where Loreto detailed with painful clarity the irregularities he had discovered. He described Almeida's attempts to silence him, the veiled threats, and his own refusal to collude with dishonesty. The last entry, dated the day of his death, was a silent cry for justice. I cannot allow this to continue. The truth must come out, no matter what happens to me. Detective Silva took the most crucial documents directly to Judge Helena. She received him in her office, fatigue etched on her face, but her eyes gleamed with anxious anticipation. Silva placed the folder on the table, opening it with a solemn gesture. Your Honor, the evidence is irrefutable. Dr. Almeida is the mastermind behind a financial fraud scheme of gigantic proportions, and Loreto, he discovered everything. He was about to expose Almeida. Silva pointed to the document, My Conscience. This is the testament of an upright man who refused to sell his soul. He was silenced for it. Helena picked up the document, her hands slightly trembling. As she read Loreto's words, she felt a knot in her throat. Donna Rosa's pain, the injustice the woman had suffered, everything was justified now. Perila's voice, that little messenger, had been the beacon that guided them through the darkness, her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of deep emotion and gratitude for the truth that was finally emerging. Loreto was a hero detective, she whispered, her voice choked. And Donna Rosa, she will be acquitted. Justice, finally, will take its course. Meanwhile, in Donna Rosa's home, the elderly woman still hugged Loreto's diary. Her nephew's words, so vivid, so full of courage, were a balm for her wounded soul. She knew, with every fiber of her being, that Loreto had been a good man, and that his death had not been in vain. Perla on her shoulder let out a soft, almost comforting chirp. No, Almeida, no, it repeated, and Donna Rosa felt a pang of pain, but also an unwavering certainty that the truth would prevail. The phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Detective Silva. His voice, previously skeptical and distant, now sounded laden with respect and contained emotion. Donna Rosa, he said, we found the evidence. Dr. Almeida has been arrested. Loreto. He was a courageous man. He discovered his partner's fraud and was about to report him. You will be acquitted. Donna Rosa felt an overwhelming relief, mixed with deep pain at the confirmation of the betrayal. Tears flowed again, but this time they were tears of liberation and justice. She pressed Perola against her chest, feeling the small creature as a living link to her beloved Loreto. The truth, however harsh, had finally come to light, and with it, the promise of peace. Donna Rosa hung up the phone, her hands still trembling, her heart beating with a mix of relief and deep sadness. Detective Silva's voice, once formal, now carried respect. Innocent, Loreto, a hero. The truth had come to light, but at a cost that still tore at her. Parrot, sensing the woman's agitation, nestled closer, a familiar warmth, her only solace. Donna Rosa caressed its soft feathers, tears streaming, washing away the pain of months of unjust accusations and the wound of her nephew's loss. She looked at Loreto's photo, now with a gleam of dignity. He had not died in vain. His integrity and courage would be the foundation of the justice that was approaching. The elderly woman felt renewed strength, a determination to honor Loreto's memory. In Judge Helena's chambers, the news of Almeida's arrest and the solidity of the evidence brought professional satisfaction and visible exhaustion. She had risked everything, her reputation, her career, for an intuition that many considered absurd. Now the truth shone, vindicating her faith in justice and in the improbable voice. Helena reviewed the documents for the official announcement. She knew the repercussions would be enormous. Unmasking Dr. Almeida would shake society, and the press would be ravenous. But she was ready. The image of Donna Rosa, fragile and dignified, was her compass. Justice could not fail. Detective Silva coordinated the team with renewed energy and a sense of urgency. Almeida's arrest was just the beginning. They needed to consolidate the case, ensure that no loophole was exploited by the defense, which would be powerful. The hidden server was secure, the encrypted data being analyzed by specialists. He felt a weight of responsibility and a discreet pride in how Judge Helena, with her persistence and faith in Parrot, had opened his eyes to a new truth. He thought of Loreto, the young man who refused to be silent in the face of corruption, and admiration grew in his chest. News of Dr. Almeida's arrest spread like wildfire. In news reports, social media, and cafes, the shock was palpable and disbelief reigned. The respected philanthropist, mentor to so many, was now at the center of a fraud and murder scandal, an abyss of deception. Public opinion, once quick to judge Donna Rosa, now turned, with shame and regret, to the elderly woman who had suffered so much. Messages of support and solidarity arrived at her home, small gestures that, for Donna Rosa, were a balm. The next day, the courtroom was packed, anticipation hanging in the air. Judge Helena entered, her posture imposing and serene. She looked at Donna Rosa, seated in the front row, next to Parrot, in its covered cage. A discreet smile passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the journey traveled. Helena raised her gavel. In light of the irrefutable evidence, which includes the unraveling of a complex fraud scheme and the motive for Loreto's silencing, this court declares Rosa Maria da Silva completely innocent of all charges. The gavel echoed, followed by a sigh of relief and restrained applause. Donna Rosa felt a knot in her throat, tears returning, this time of pure liberation and gratitude. She was free. Loreto vindicated. Justice, finally, had prevailed. The next step would be the formal accusation against Almeida and the battle to unmask his web of lies. For now, light had come for Donna Rosa. Donna Rosa, her heart still vibrating from the declaration of her innocence, felt a gentle warmth spread through her chest. That knot in her throat, which had suffocated her for so many months, loosened, allowing her to breathe deeply for the first time. Tears, now of pure gratitude, streamed down her wrinkles, washing away the pain and shame that injustice had imposed upon her. She looked at Parrot, who, in its covered cage, seemed to sense the change in the air, letting out a soft chirp. Loreto. Free. whispered Donna Rosa, caressing the parrot's soft feathers. Freedom was a balm, but the wound of Loretto's loss still throbbed. Her innocence was only the first step. Now, her nephew's memory needed to be fully honored, and the true culprit, Dr. Almeida, would face the full force of justice. In Judge Helena's chambers, satisfaction was palpable, but mixed with deep exhaustion. Her eyes, previously laden with doubt and uncertainty, now shone with the conviction of one who had trodden the right path, even when everyone doubted. She had risked her reputation, her career, for an intuition guided by the fragmented words of a parrot and the unwavering faith of an elderly woman. As she reviewed the documents for the next trial, the case against Almeida, Helena knew the battle would be arduous. Dr. Almeida's defense would be fierce, attempting to discredit every piece of evidence, every testimony. But the judge was prepared. The image of Donna Rosa, with her unwavering dignity, and Loretto's voice, echoed by Parrot, were her shield and her sword. Detective Silva, for his part, felt a mixture of relief and a renewed sense of urgency. Almeida's arrest was just the beginning. The team worked tirelessly to consolidate the evidence, ensuring that the fraud scheme was unraveled in every detail and that the murder motive was unquestionable. He thought of Loretto, the idealistic young man who refused to collude with corruption, and a silent admiration grew in his chest. That case had changed his perspective on justice, on truth, and on the improbable messengers who reveal it. The days that followed were of intense preparation. News of Donna Rosa's innocence and Almeida's arrest dominated the news. Public opinion, once so severe, now turned with shame to the elderly woman, flooding her with messages of support and solidarity. Donna Rosa, though still fragile, found strength in the certainty that Loretto would finally be vindicated. She spent hours talking to Parrot, reliving Loretto's memories, feeling her nephew's presence through the words the parrot repeated. Dark room, gold, no, Almeida, no. Each phrase was a painful reminder, but also a cry of courage. The day arrived. The courtroom was even more crowded than before, the anticipation almost suffocating. The international press gathered, eager for every detail of the trial that promised to shake the foundations of the financial elite. Dr. Almeida, once a pillar of the community, entered the room, handcuffed, his face pale and marked by defeat, but his eyes still showed a flicker of defiance. Donna Rosa, seated in the front row next to Parrot, who was in its cage, now uncovered, felt her heart clench. It was the moment, Loretto's moment. Judge Helena entered, her posture imposing and serene, and looked at Donna Rosa, a discreet nod of recognition. She raised her gavel, and silence fell over the room. This court is convened to begin the trial of Arthur Almeida, accused of financial fraud and the murder of Loretto Silva. Let justice be done. The echo of the gavel sealed the beginning of a new battle, where the voice of a parrot, once again, would be the key to the complete truth. The courtroom, a stage for human dramas, was immersed in a heavy, almost reverent silence as Dr. Arthur Almeida's trial unfolded. Judge Helena, with her dignified posture and penetrating gaze, conducted the proceedings with unwavering firmness. Detective Silva, now a transformed man, presented the evidence with a clarity and conviction that left no room for doubt. The fraud spreadsheets, the records of illicit transfers, Loretto's diary, each piece fit together, forming a grim mosaic of Almeida's greed. Donna Rosa, seated in the front row, felt her heart clench with each detail revealed. The image of Loretto, so young and upright, confronting the darkness, was painful. But by her side, Parrot, in its uncovered cage, was a living reminder of her nephew's courage. The small bird, oblivious to the legal complexity, observed the room with its curious eyes, letting out occasional chirps that for Donna Rosa were like Loreto's whispers. The crucial moment arrived when Almeida's defense tried to discredit the investigation, questioning the validity of the digital evidence and Loreto's motive. It was then that Detective Silva, with a calculated gesture, called the court's attention to a special witness. He approached Perola's cage, and the parrot, as if sensing the gravity of the moment, tilted its head. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Silva began, his voice resonating, "here is the voice Loreto could no longer use, the voice that, for months, was the only one to cry out the truth." He made a signal, and Donna Rosa, with trembling hands, opened the cage door. Perola, without hesitation, flew to the detective's arm. In the sepulchral silence, the parrot repeated, with chilling clarity, "No. Almeida. No. Dark room. Gold." Loreto's voice, so vivid and full of despair, echoed through the courtroom walls. A tremor ran through the room. Dr. Almeida, who until then had maintained an expression of defiance, paled, his eyes, once arrogant, now fixed on Perola with undeniable terror. The mask fell completely, revealing the fragility of a man cornered by his own wickedness. Perola's words, etched in the air, were the final confession, the irrefutable proof of betrayal and crime. Judge Helena observed the scene with contained emotion. The truth, so improbable in its origin, now manifested with overwhelming force. She looked at Donna Rosa, who cried in silence. Tears of relief and pain mingled. The woman's dignity, her unwavering faith had been rewarded. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Judge Helena raised her gavel, and silence reigned again. In light of the evidence presented and the irrefutable testimony, this court declares Arthur Almeida guilty of the crimes of financial fraud and the murder of Loreto Silva. The gavel echoed, sealing Almeida's fate and finally bringing peace to Donna Rosa. Justice, with its most unusual voice, had prevailed. Donna Rosa felt an immense weight lifted from her shoulders. She hugged Perola affectionately, feeling the bird's warmth against her wet face. Loreto, her beloved nephew, was vindicated. The pain of loss would remain, but the certainty of his honor and the justice served were a balm for her soul. The elderly woman looked at Judge Helena, who returned her gaze with a gentle smile and a nod of her head. Human connection, faith in truth, and the overcoming of adversity had transformed the lives of everyone in that courtroom. Donna Rosa felt an immense weight lifted from her shoulders. She hugged Perola affectionately, feeling the bird's warmth against her wet face. Loreto, her beloved nephew, was vindicated. The pain of loss would remain, a deep scar, but the certainty of his honor and the justice served were a balm for her wounded soul. The elderly woman looked at Judge Helena, who returned her gaze with a gentle smile and a nod of her head, a silent acknowledgement of the extraordinary journey. Human connection, faith in truth, and the overcoming of adversity had transformed the lives of everyone in that courtroom. In the days that followed, Donna Rosa's life began to reorganize with a new and profound purpose. Her home, once a place of anguish and solitude, now seemed to breathe peace and renewal. Messages of support and solidarity continued to arrive, no longer out of curiosity, but from genuine affection and sincere admiration. People who had hastily judged her now sought her forgiveness, and Donna Rosa, with her wisdom and kindness, offered it with an open heart. She knew that true healing would come with time, but the seed of hope had already sprouted in her chest. Perola, more than ever, was her constant shadow, a living link to the past and a promise for the future. The parrot, which had become a vibrant symbol of justice, continued to repeat Loreto's phrases, but now they brought not only the pain of loss, but also the memory of an unwavering love and courage. Donna Rosa spoke with Perola, telling it about the day, about the flowers Loreto liked, about the plans they had. It was her purest and tenderest way of keeping her nephew alive in her memory, of honoring his existence with each sunrise. Judge Helena, after the historic verdict, felt a deep and gratifying sense of accomplishment. That case, which at times seemed impossible, had reaffirmed her faith in justice and in the human capacity to seek truth, even on the most winding paths. She met with Donna Rosa a few weeks later, no longer in the formality of the courtroom, but as two women who had shared an extraordinary journey. Helena expressed her admiration for Donna Rosa's unwavering strength and dignity, and the elderly woman, in turn, thanked the judge for her faith and perceptiveness. That simple and sincere meeting sealed an improbable friendship, born from the ashes of a tragedy. Detective Silva, once skeptical, became one of the greatest advocates for the story of Loreto and Perola. He began giving lectures at police academies and legal forums, using the case as a vivid example of how truth can manifest in unexpected ways and how crucial it is to keep an open mind and an attentive heart. His team, inspired by the turnaround, worked with new vigor and keen perception, aware that every detail, however small, could be the key to unraveling a mystery. Loreto's legacy, through Perola's voice, had transformed not only individual lives, but also the very machinery of justice, making it more humane. Donna Rosa, now free from the shadows of accusation, dedicated herself to creating a living memorial for Loreto. A garden of colorful and vibrant flowers, as full of life as he had loved so much. She planted each seed with immense affection, talking to Perola, who faithfully accompanied her in her daily tasks. With each flower that bloomed, it was as if a piece of Loreto's soul blossomed again, spreading beauty and hope. The story of Donna Rosa, Loreto, and Perola spread, becoming an inspiring tale of resilience, family love, and the unwavering belief that justice, at times, finds its voice in the most improbable messengers, proving that truth always finds a way to light, no matter how dark the room may seem. Life, for Donna Rosa, had become a living testament to hope and human triumph. Life, for Donna Rosa, had become a living testament to hope and human triumph. The months that followed Arthur Almeida's verdict were a period of profound and serene transformation, not only for her, but for every soul touched by her story of resilience. Her home, once a refuge of anguish and uncertainty, now radiated a contagious peace, attracting neighbors and friends who came seeking advice or a simple hug. Donna Rosa was no longer the fragile and unjustly accused woman. She was the wise matriarch, whose gentle eyes carried the depth of one who had faced the densest darkness and emerged with the unwavering light of truth. She spent her mornings in the garden Loreto loved so much, tending to the flowers with redoubled affection, as if each opening petal was a reminder of life's ephemeral beauty and the unbreakable strength of the spirit. Perola, on her shoulder, watched in silence, occasionally letting out a soft chirp or one of Loreto's phrases, but now the words seemed to have a different tone, less of despair and more of a tender, victorious memory. Dark room, gold, and no, Almeida, no, were spoken with a cadence that, for Donna Rosa, sounded like a distant echo of a battle won, a silent hymn to her beloved nephew's courage and integrity. It was the purest way to keep Loreto alive, to honor his existence with each sunrise. Judge Helena, for her part, continued her career with a renewed perspective and an even deeper sense of purpose. Donna Rosa and Perola's case had become a landmark in her jurisprudence, a constant reminder that justice is not limited to written codes and laws, but also resides in intuition, empathy, and the ability to listen to the most unexpected voices. She became an even more fervent advocate for the rights of the most vulnerable, using her platform to inspire others to look beyond appearances and seek truth in every detail. Her friendship with Donna Rosa blossomed, with regular visits and long conversations, where they shared not only memories, but also hope for a more just and humane future. Detective Silver, once a man of unwavering logic and skepticism, had become an example of open-mindedness and sensitivity. He incorporated Parrot's lesson into his work, teaching his colleagues to pay attention to details, to whispers, to clues that pure reason might sometimes overlook. Loreto and Almeida's case was frequently cited in his trainings, a vivid testament to the power of truth and the importance of never giving up, even when all odds seem stacked against you. He visited Donna Rosa occasionally, bringing small plant seedlings for the garden and listening to Loreto's stories, feeling part of a family that tragedy had united in an unexpected and profound way. The community, which had initially judged Donna Rosa so harshly, now embraced her with admirable affection and respect. People came to her home to ask for advice, to share their own sorrows, and to find inspiration in her story of triumph. Donna Rosa, with her innate patience and wisdom, offered a listening ear and words of comfort, becoming a true beacon of hope in her neighborhood. She organized small gatherings where she told Loreto's story, not as a tragedy, but as a tale of courage and integrity, a legacy that deserved to be remembered and celebrated by all. Loreto's garden, under Donna Rosa's loving care, became a silent pilgrimage spot, a place where people could reflect on life, loss, and the resilience of the human spirit. The flowers, in their colorful fullness, seemed to whisper with each breeze the eternal message that truth, like a seed planted with faith, always finds its way to the light, no matter how dark the room may seem. Donna Rosa, seated on her favorite bench, with Parrot nestled on her shoulder, watched the sunset, feeling a deep and lasting peace. The pain of Loreto's loss would never completely disappear, but now it was accompanied by immense gratitude for the justice that had been served and for the love that endured, a love that transcending death itself. Her life was an eloquent testament that even in the greatest adversities, faith, family, and unbreakable human connection can transform suffering into an inexhaustible source of hope, proving that the voice of truth, however improbable, always finds a way to be heard, illuminating the dark room of injustice with the purest and most redemptive light.